All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the second episode of TEW 2020. I was looking at kind of our main competition. So we have a geographical rival in British Columbia, and that is indeed All Star Wrestling. All Star Wrestling is big competition for us, and what we're competing with is a company is around 60. They had a 70 show as well, but generally it looks like they're going to average 60 and get 70 for main shows. That's the main competition for us. We'll see how that goes. I think once we start finding the right people and everything, we'll be good to go. But as of right now, it is tough. Um, so yeah, we do have our main show. We do have our very first show, The Big Bang. That'll be tonight or tomorrow night, depending on the date, but that'll be this episode. Um, with our TV contract and everything. But yeah, Company Wars, our entire world. We, of course, are 15th in Canada, but we are 37th. There are only three promotions smaller than us, and we're tiny and then 50 state wrestling and everything. So the goal is to catch up to ASW, which in Canada, they are, yeah, the big three, and then they're fourth of Canadian promotions, and we are all the way down in probably fifth say because a lot of these are from other countries. CSW is yeah, so all the way around here is where we are. We can't join the NWA, which would have helped to have an NWA World Title match on our first show. So to compensate, now that we can't join the NWA, we will be awarding our first ever championship, which is the Canadian Heavyweight Championship, and we'll see how that goes. I will. Who will be competing for it and how they will win it remains to be unknown, but we will be crowning the CFW Canadian Heavyweight Championship tonight, and we will Luthez will also be appearing. As long as I can't see who's going to be and not going to be competing on events. Luthez, I don't think in test runs I've done has an issue of that. But yeah, so far all we know about the show that's come out that I've released to the public is Luthez will be there, and we will be crowning our first ever Canadian heavyweight champion. Other than that, nothing else can be revealed here. So let me just see you guys on the other side here for the show. All right, hello everyone, welcome back, and it all starts. Welcome, and we have the first ever pre-show match. What will be a tradition for a long while for CFW, a rookie showcase match on the pre-show to give potential rookies a lot of attention here, spotlight them, show British Columbia what it is that they can do for us here. And so in tonight's show, I would say this was actually a good match, worked great considering their popularity in the area. Dusty Rhodes defeats Roddy Piper with the figure four leg lock. That is a lot of wrestlers' finishers I've noticed. So, um, just, yep, there we go. So, yep, in the first ever pre show match, Dusty Rhodes defeats Roddy Piper. So, put down your notes for some trivia there here. All right, and now let's get to the main show. And the first segment we have is a 50, where, of course, I just welcome everyone to CFW, the Canadian Federation of Wrestling. We have a lot of fun today. We'll be crowning the first ever Canadian heavyweight champion later tonight in a tournament featuring Thor Hagen, Harold Sakata, and Abdullah the Butcher, and I'm blanking on the fourth wrestler's name at the moment in the tournament here, but those two will wrestle in two singles matches. The winner of those singles matches will wrestle, and the Canadian Federation of Wrestling will have their first ever champion, as well as the appearance by Luthez. And then 49 rating for this match. Pretty good considering Mike York. Nick Kozak, the British Columbian wrestler here, has a very good match. He defeats Mike York. The first man to ever win a main match is indeed uh, Nick Kozak. So congrats to him. And let's just handle gimmick changes because it's their very first show. Leo Garibaldi is, of course, our referee. So solid match there. Now let's go on to the next segment. And here we go. Buddy Rogers, the first ever WWF champion, is here. And he, of course, gets a win. He defeats Jerry Kozak in 13 minutes by cheating. But he does get the win nonetheless. And so we'll have a word with him. I come up and interview. I will interview him myself, considering you're the first ever WWF champion. And what's going on here? And Buddy Rogers is basically saying, Lou Thez beat me in the NWA in an unfair way for the NWA World Title. I, of course, went on to win a tournament in Rio de Janeiro to make myself world champion. But of course, Lou Thez gets the major spotlight here tonight. I think that's ridiculous. I should be the one getting the spotlight. Is he right? Is he wrong? We'll see. Not my place as the owner to say, but Buddy Rogers making his intentions known here as his first appearance in the Canadian Federation of Wrestling. Next up, we have our first annual tournament, which will run 3 matches in a row here. Our next 3 matches will be to crown our first ever. Thor Hagen beats Harold Sakaga with the reverse sleepover toe hold. And of course, they have a decent match. And yeah, we have learned that Thor Hagen and Harold Sakata put on some pretty good matches. All right, next segment we have Abdullah the Butcher has indeed defeated Sam Steamboat, so it will be Abdullah the Butcher versus Thor Hagen to crown the first ever Canadian heavyweight champion and the first man to ever hold a title in the Canadian Federation of Wrestling. And it is a 42. I'm a little bit disappointed with the rating, but that looks like it was my fault for having 2 wild brawls. But about that fantastic feat and great wrestling, Thor Hagen did indeed defeat Abdullah the Butcher with a roll up after Abdullah the Butcher had a very violent affair here. A little bit of blood, but that's the way I pictured it. And Thor Hagen was able to escape and become the first ever Canadian Federation Canadian Heavyweight Champion. So, congrats to Thor Hagen. You are the very first ever champion. But someone who is not happy at all with this, and that is Abdullah the Butcher. He comes in and he attacks Thor Hagen, beating him down to the mat. And Abdullah the Butcher is definitely wanting his sights set on that Canadian Heavyweight Championship and will not let it slide here. But Thor Hagen is the first man to ever win a title here in the Canadian Federation of Wrestling. However, it is now time for our main event. Lou Thez, what is his intentions here in the Canadian Federation of Wrestling? We shall find out here. All right. But before he can, Buddy Rogers has attacked Lou Thez. He has beat him down to the mat. Um, Obviously, we heard earlier in the show, he made his intentions and his opinions on Lou Thez perfectly clear. And before Lou Thez can get a word in, Buddy Rogers has indeed beat down Lou Thez, and it looks like we have our very first issue between 2 fellow wrestlers, and that is between Buddy Rogers and Lou Thez. And that is the end of the show. So unfortunately, we did not get to hear from Lou Thez. Hopefully, at our next event, the Canadian Classic, which will indeed be a tournament, which I've revealed at the beginning of the show. I just forgot to reveal it to you, fine people, when summarizing the show. But unfortunately for us all on this show, Lou Thez was unable to get a word in. But we shall see how things play out here. And let's finish the show. What do we get? 37. All right. So, yeah, that's not ideal here, but we will do better here. I thought we weren't in trouble. That didn't seem like there was an issue, but that is my fault. I think the show would have been better had we not done that. However, our network is not going to be happy with us, so that's not good. We really gotta. Um, all right, make speech. We will give. No. And Thor Hagen. Encouragement. All right, so I will come back to you guys in a second here just to kind of finalize our show and our schedule. And yeah, we'll get to it from there. All right, so here we are. We had our first show. Unfortunately, while it did help us grow and increase our popularity, it did make our network unhappy. We're gonna have to. I'm normally I do a good job of watching the monitoring the wrestling, but yeah. So basically, um, we have. Let me just see. Our size probably hasn't increased that much yet. No. But yeah, we have our main show. We need to incorporate have a better wrestling ratio, and I think we should be good in keeping our network happy. We will be introducing a new TV show after our first event, which will indeed be CFW Live, which is just a live 1 hour show to kind of get everything across. So it looks like Luthez helped negotiate it in storyline to be able to finally speak, as Buddy Rogers will indeed be banned. Um, and then, yes, of course. And then we have not events on TV. Do not want spoilers for what, because basically what I did was I named our third event after the main event of that show. But we do have the Canadian Classic coming up. But yes, of course, our first ever champion of the Canadian Heavyweight Champion. I just went with, so there's a picture, the title. This would be the title's final form, we shall say. But this probably isn't what the title looks like right now, if you can imagine. But just for the sake, that's what the title looks like. But of course, the Canadian Heavyweight Championship was indeed won by Thor Hagen. Um, and yeah, we'll see how it goes from there. But yep, we here is our roster. So let's just view our roster. We have um, just kind of do a roster reveal for everyone. When we can basically say we have a magazine, which is how people are able to follow our stories that don't watch events and everything. So um, we have 19 wrestlers right now. Abdullah the Butcher, of course, who you saw, is definitely in storyline wanting to hunt for that Canadian Heavyweight Championship. Angelo Poffo, the most known for not he right now, but in the future, his sons, the Genius, and Randy Savage, who you may or may not have heard of, especially if you're here. Buddy Rogers, who is definitely wanting to go after Luthez. Um, and then we have Fritz von Erich is signed. He was a road agent for us. Um, he's going to be one of our major stars here. But yeah, unfortunately, he did not get a chance to wrestle. George Kadaski, uh, he is a wrestler himself here. Gorilla Monsoon, who mostly worked for the WWF. I don't know how we're going to be able to do this, considering he is, he's loyal to the WWF. Whenever WWF is running a show, we can't have him. So don't expect to see a lot of Gorilla Monsoon in the CFW. Harold Sakata, of course, who participated in the tournament. He is very happy. John Tolos, um, definitely someone with his popularity set to be a top heel for us in the future. Killer Kowalski, and then of course Luthez right now. Probably I would say the current face of our company. Definitely not most known for here, but he's our most popular, and we built our first show around him, making just an appearance. So definitely the major star here. Nick Kozak, Sam Steamboat, and Thor Hagen. So the first ever man to hold a title in CFW. So so those are our major stars. But then we have Dusty Rhodes, who of course was in the rookie showcase. Um, Frankie Hart, who is one of our referees and a potential road agent for us. Fritz von Erich, 40. We already went over him. Dasky, we went over him. Gorgeous George Jr. 29, definitely there. Someone who can help us out. Or else we got to participate in the tournament. Jack Britton is a road agent for us. Jerry Kozik is he's kind of in the leadership position here in the CFW. Jerry Kozik is another wrestler, definitely more of a mid carder for us. There's of course myself, Carl Gray, who is a referee, Carl von Bronner, and Carl von Steiner. And then we have Killer Kowalski, who is a major star. Anyone who's not a major star. Mike York is definitely someone we look at. Nick Kozak, who won a match last night. I think the first ever man to win a match in the history of CFW. Then we have Pancho Pachon, Pat Patterson, who is, I believe, yeah, I don't think he was at our show, but I think he's wrestles for the WWF. I don't think he was exclusive to us. Pedro Morales, Rocky Johnson, who was unable to wrestle at our show, of course, in the rookie showcase. Roddy Piper, Sam Steamboat, and then yeah, that's everyone. That is our roster for now. I might try to sign more people. I will go ahead and update you guys there. But yeah, that is it for this one. There's our roster. Unfortunately, we are definitely going to be way behind the um we're definitely going to be behind and losing some attendance too for right now the um, All-Star Wrestling. They're definitely going to be a boogeyman for us. So we'll see how that goes, everyone. But that's it for this one. Thank you for sticking around. Tune in for the first edition in 3 days of CFW Live, where we will basically run our first TV show, just an hour show to kind of help bridge the gap. The main show will be easy to follow for um, non CFW or for CFW casuals and then but hardcore fans. CFW Live will basically to fill in the gap between our monthly events. Probably will eventually go to once every 3 months, depending on our profit margins and everything. And of course, they won't be pay-per-views because I don't think pay-per-views exist yet. That doesn't exist till the early 80s. So no pay-per-views, just good old-fashioned shows, which will be CFW specials, as we'll call them. But that is it for this one. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys soon tomorrow for the first ever episode of CFW Live.